fiction. Like, and so like
But
when
the Marvel
look,
Cinematic Universe is as fiction as it gets. I mean, so
that,
like,
and that's what I'm saying is like I don't understand why people are upset about physics and powers when it's like they're superheroes.
look,
Okay, like
but as content
let's
creators,
take
like, let's say that you came up with that in your imagination for a second, and Kana had this really good idea about this new magic system that she was coming up with, and so she worked on it and worked through this magic system for a period of time, and people found it so interesting that they got in like raging internet conversations about different elements of the magic system that she came up with. That, I guess, to a creator, for me especially, I would be pretty impressed with myself that I inspired that type of debate. And so I don't think that the creators are upset with people picking it apart or trying to make it make sense in their head, because that means that they're very engaged in the content, they're excited about it, it's something that they feel invested in. And so, just like we're debating about Night in the Moth, I had I overlay covers for my TikToks on AI, and it's like you can't do that because Tangled is Disney, and Disney gets real mad about this. And I'm like, Disney wants me talking about Tangled, and Rachel Gillig loves that we're having all of everything that we've done and all the posts that we've had about it. We've created this, our little book club has sold books for Rachel Gillig. I know of at least 10 people that have messaged me on TikTok that have added this book to the TBR based on our content. And so they want us hosting this, and they want us complaining or raging, like any type of awareness that we're creating surrounding their content is a huge compliment. So
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
And so
I just think the walking the line of creating discussion and rage baiting is a very fine line. You know what I mean?
And I rage bait. I rage bait.
We know.
I love.
We know.
I
love
like my post last year.
That.
I had to message no fewer than 15 people from the Donut Death post where they were like mad at me, and I'm like, it's just a joke, okay? Like, calm down, it's just a joke.
Oh my gosh.
And
you're gonna get death threats, Aaron.
It's so funny. It's so funny though. You know what the best part about it is? There was at least 10 to 15 people who I know to have read the whole book series. Like, they're done with Parade of Horribles. And they were making up stuff in the comments, like, about,
I saw that.
And I loved it. Like, I mean, we're all winking at each other, and we all know. And if you've been paying attention to the series, there's no one who has teased the potential demise of Donut more than Matt Denham.
The Matt.
Yeah, he's 100% rage baited and freaked people out, and like nothing that I can say is worse than Matt saying that he's storyboarded Donut dying in almost every book he's written. So that's...
And let us not forget the reminder at the end of book 8, this story is a tragedy.
Yeah.
Like, he's not trying to sugarcoat that he's going to emotionally destroy us by the end of this series.
Oh, great. Like, I love it. Okay. And if you know anything about me, or like one day, if you finish any of the things that I write, you will realize that I don't believe that the world is always a pretty place. And so I don't write my worlds that way. And I think that Matt doing that, I think one of the most interesting things that was in that comment thread was that someone posted, this message is from a deceased crawler as the end line for the series, and nothing after. And all I stopped, and I was like,
no, because if Matt Walking Dead's me, I'm gonna be so mad.
Mic drop. That's just a lot. You don't explain how Carl died. You don't explain any of that. You just say this message is from a deceased crawler, and you drop the mic and walk away. And I can't imagine the entire series ending. I mean, looking at it, tragic endings are fine so long as tragic endings make sense. And as long as it's been built towards that, and they've seeded that tragedy to where whenever you go back and you read it, you're like, this is always what it was going to be. This is what it kind of had to be, but this is always it's going to be. And so at this point, if I don't see that as the final line of book 10, I'm almost going to be disappointed in a very morbid way. So, yeah.
That reminds me of Mistborn Era 1, like that ending where it's obviously really sad, but like you're able to make peace with it because it was written so well, and then, like you said, like it was always going to be that way.
And you look at it, and you look back, and you were warned throughout the book. You didn't realize you were being warned until you got to the end, and then you saw the conclusion, and you're like, yeah, I see why. I understand why.
Well, like, does anybody else like to recommend books in a way? Like, one of my favorite things to say is, here, this book made me cry. I think you'll like it.
I mean, yeah, I've done that before.
There's a lot. And if any book that inspires emotion, like I talk about Red Rising, and it didn't always inspire my favorite emotions whenever I read Red Rising, but any book where I'm going through and I'm feeling a way, good, bad, or indifferent, they say the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference, right? So if you hate somebody, then you care deeply about that person in a negative way, but you still care deeply about that
There's
person.
emotion there. Yeah.
And so indifference is going to be the opposite of both hate and love. And so whenever you're in a book and it's inspiring that level of feelings, like it shows you that you're doing a good job. And Matt teasing Donut's death, or my being able to put that post up, and so many comments, like, the comment percentage was very high on that, which I expected it from a content standpoint because it was fun. But at the same time, this book is inspiring emotion in people, and Red Rising inspired emotion very well. And if it can make you cry, that means you cared, whether or not you'll admit it. And so it was good writing because you were invested in the characters and they felt real to you, because you can't care about something that doesn't feel real.
That was me angry at Suzanne Collins for the entire Hunger Games series. From every prequel to the very end, just all of the emotions. All of them.
Sad.
Which is good. And people have opinions about Suzanne Collins in general. But any author, to me, that can make somebody feel that way about their characters is doing a great job at their. It's the biggest craft compliment that you can get. So we're gonna jump in. We spoke earlier about spoilers. I'm gonna say it intermittently throughout this because we are going to spoil Night in the Moth, because this is the end game Night in the Moth book club. And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to go through a couple of things general from we're all fans of writing or of reading and of novels, and there's some news going on surround that lately that I've been paying attention to and tracking. So I want to get into that and get y'all's opinions and reactions to that first, and then we're going to dive into my thoughts. So
your complaints.
Yeah, his CVS receipt
I have
complaints.
Have like 3 things that I didn't like, but that's it.
I have complimented Rachel Gillig numerous times.
It's
And
on the record.
I have recommended this book numerous times, and my star rating might have gone down a little bit, but at the end of the day, do I recommend or do I not? has not changed. I still recommend this book. So we're getting ahead. So I'm excited. We sent messages about this. Jeff Hayes as Princess Donut confirmed. I loved watching the video. It was they did it really well. They did it in character. Having Jeff Hayes there, what a promotional gift that is for this book series to be able to, if you think about how they introduced or they announced Jeff being the voice of Princess Donut in the show, you couldn't do it any better. It's content creation on the stage, and I enjoyed it very much. Anyone who's a big fan of Dungeon Crawler Carl enjoyed it very much. The question becomes, is he the AI as well? And I feel like they're doing this to us on purpose to maintain hype, as we go. Like, why did
Well, I genuinely think that, in my humble opinion, because I did the audiobooks before I read the physical books. So Jeff has been Donut from day one, and I don't think my brain would have been able to, like, it's one of those things where when I first saw the Da Vinci Code way back in the day, I walked out of the theater because I'm like, you gave an albino man bright blue eyes. Don't get me wrong, I love Paul Bettany, but like we were competent with CGI at that point, you know what I mean? So like I feel like if it wasn't Jeff, that's all I was gonna notice throughout the whole show.
Does that change with the AI? If the AI is a different voice, would it be as distracting?
No. And here's why. Because I think with the AI, the moods of the AI changes Jeff's projection of the voice. So it goes up sometimes, it kind of slightly differs sometimes depending on the context of what the AI is saying. So I think the AI is going to be able to get away with that a little bit better. And I have a cast submission for you.
Oh.
Give it.
Throw it out.
Alan Tudyk. Alan Tudyk as the AI.
Who dat?
Hey, the chicken. Alan Tudyk.
Alan Tudyk. I'm looking it up right now.
Has anybody seen Dodgeball?
Oh, yeah. That guy.
Steve the Pirate.
He can do. He is a very competent voice actor. Firefly. Yes. Thank you, Jordan. 100%.
Yes.
Firefly is probably the best example of Alan Tudyk. I can see Alan being in this series and being a good fit for this series, not as a voice actor, but as an actual actor. And I think,
who would you put him as?
He's the type of guy that can fit multiple different roles. I think he's got a lot of breadth as a character. That the AI, yeah, that's what she's saying. The AI, you've got a friend who's also
thank you. Yes.
On
yes.
thinking it could be.
Because
I'm not opposed
hear me out.
to it. But would it?
Hear me out.
Okay, I'm listening.
Did you watch Rogue One? The sassy robot. Okay, the sassy robot. That's Alan Tudyk, my guy. He has the perfect sass for the AI. He also has just I think he has that little disconnect in his brain that makes him just perfectly weird to be the AI.
So it comes down to the thing that I said. There's a business decision that you have to make. Okay? So the first thing is if I leave.
Yeah, that's right. He is.
Jeff Hayes.
Sorry, Jordan.
Yep, Jordan's on it. If I leave the AI voice with Jeff, do I gain fans or do I lose fans? Okay, and I think the answer is it's pretty neutral, and I think that new people introduced to it are going to be just as excited if Jeff did it as if Alan did it. The second thing is
That's
cost.
true.
Who's more expensive? If I add Alan to the series where he wasn't there before, then I have 2 contracts and 2 engagements. Having Jeff voice the AI is probably not going to be as expensive. Probably.
Oh yeah,
less
that's more
expensive.
cost efficient for sure.
And if I use Alan, will I gain fans, or do I risk losing fans because it's not Jeff? And I will tell you that
I'm with Jordan on this.
almost anything that you do pulling Jeff away from Dungeon Crawler Carl is going to have a potentially negative fan reaction, because he's been branded with this series almost as closely as Matt Denneman has. Anytime you see Matt up on the stage, hell, Jeff's been promoting this series from the beginning. He gets in front of a crowd of people and just reads the book out loud to a crowd of people like a live performance. And so he's got a lot of brand equity with the series. Now, I think since you've cast him as Princess Donut, like you, I think many of the fans will say, well, we didn't get rid of him, and so I feel good about it. I don't feel bad about it. But I know that they're going to do a lot of focus group questions on the subject, but I don't know that you hurt anything by leaving Jeff on there, and I think that you could potentially. Personally, Princess Donut, I was more emotionally connected to than the AI, and so I feel
100%.
less motivated by the AI issue than I was about Jeff voicing.
Yeah.
Donut. So
yeah, no, that I'm 100% with you on that, because like my 3 things for the show that like I really wanted to happen was I wanted Jeff to be Princess Donut or be involved in the show as a voice in some way, shape, or form, because just like you said, he's so entwined with the series as a whole that I feel like a lot of fans would have literally revolted. You know what I mean?
it would have been distracting to me as well. I would have questioned enjoying the series as much as I could have had Donut been voiced differently, because as I watched it, and I feel like it would be an insult to Jeff, who's a very significant portion of the reason why this series is so popular. I think the writing's great. I think the story is great. But I truly think this is one instance where the audiobook legitimately improved the commercial viability of this book and how big of a hit it was, because Jeff did such a great job.
100%.
I hope he's cast as the AI.
But
I'm not gonna say I don't hope for it, because any job that man gets, I'm all for it. But like, I also will not be mad if Donut's the only character he voices.
Jordan asked a very important question, and I'm going to answer this question as often as it gets asked.
No.
Anytime this gets asked, there's only one person that could ever be Carl, and it's Jensen Ackles, and I don't care how old he is. It's always going to be Jensen Ackles. There will never be an answer that's not Jensen Ackles. I will be personally offended if Jensen Ackles is not Carl, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. And I say this with as much love for this series as I can bear, but everyone's trying to keep the age range, but there's still only one right answer. It's the same thing with The Witcher. There's only one Witcher,
Okay, you got me there. Because why is Miley Cyrus's ex-husband trying to pretend like he knows what he's doing?
Any answer other than Jensen Ackles is going to be Timu Carl, and I don't want to see it happen to this like I saw it happen to The Witcher, because I was a pretty big fan of The Witcher series, and I did not and will not watch the season where they Timu'd Gerald. Not gonna do it. So I can't do it. Anyway,
I still like Peter Clappy for Carl, and I saw Jordan said Will Poulter, which was weird to me at first, but the more I think about it, the more I could potentially see it.
Y'all are going to be mad at me for this one, especially Aaron. Hear me out, Dylan O'Brien.
Oh, yes, I'm in.
I'm not mad. I'm not mad. It's just like, a math teacher standing up at the front of the class. They are mad whenever the kids get the wrong answers. It's just a matter of education and persistence and practice at the question. So I won't be. You will not break me. I will not be swayed. There's only one answer. Okay. Next discussion point. The EU has passed, and the AI Act is going into effect. I wanted to briefly say this because this is interesting to me and relevant. So the EU is telling AI companies that they have to put tags in the content that they create so that it can be easily identified as AI. And so for music, there is a sub-audible signal that's put into AI generated audio where you can't hear it, but if you put an AI tracker on it, it automatically recognizes it as AI unquestioningly. I think that's interesting. The same thing with video or images. There's ways to pixelate certain things in the images and the video to where it becomes clear that the video is in fact AI generated. So just from a proof standpoint, things like that, you don't have OpenAI and some of the others passing off AI content as real content. Now, in writing, this becomes significantly more difficult because the way the content is presented is way different. You can't change a letter, and you can't, other than adding an asterisk, this is generated by AI or something like that. It's much easier to wash the AI from words than it is to wash AI from video and content. And from an AI checker standpoint, even if the AI indicator thinks that it's AI, if you go back and you put Tolkien into an AI checker, it gives you 100% AI like response. It does, because anytime you're really, what's the word that I'm looking for, literary in how you write. And so I've noticed it with me, like I get 0% AI because I run it on Substack, and this is my next point. Substack has partnered with Pangram to put an AI checker as part of the platform on any writing on there for free. So if somebody posts something and you want to check it with AI, then against AI, it will allow you to run it. And I get 0%, but I don't get 0% on everything, and I don't know why. I look into it and I check it, and like it'll say 20% AI or whatever. And it says if you're under 60% AI, then it's really not like detectable. If it says 100% AI, they say it's a 1 in 10,000 chance that it's not AI if it says it's 100% AI. But the creators on Substack have been wildly against it. Because like me, if it says 20% AI and you didn't use AI, then you're sitting there worried like, what did I do? Is somebody going to accuse me? I'm in there deleting metaphors, trying to make the score go down, because you don't want to be accused of this, because it's like you get like really,
it's
really
a black
doxed.
mark on your palm.
It is.
Yeah.
And you can't know. And I also am a moderate in the AI discussion, because independent authors are poor people. Like they're poor people, and people who shame them for using AI for book covers and for stuff like that. They're like, you need to pay a real creator for that. I'm like, you're talking to the most broke person on the planet right now who's making $0 on their book and has to pay an editor and has to pay all these different people just to hope to release it and get it out there and be decent. And you're shaming them for something that they don't have the financial access to perform on. And so, what do y'all think? Oh, the AI for so what they're going to try to do is they whenever AI how AI writes, it writes one word and then it looks at the next word and it gives it like a red, green, or a yellow token. And it they want to make the AI generators for LLMs give enough of these green tokens that would be the thing that AI would most likely pick as the next word to where you can recognize the pattern when it generates a new piece of writing or something like that so that they can check it. It's really complex. But what are your thoughts about how this break? This has been a crazy it's been a crazy debate. Like y'all are readers. What are your thoughts on this? How do you approach it when creators are either they're partially using AI. They're saying, I'm going to write it on a piece of paper because Microsoft Word spell checks me and that's kind of AI and I'll never use AI. There are people who are actually going that far with their recommendations where they won't let you do Grammarly. They don't want to see pro writing aid. There are AI tools that say, this is a bad sentence, dude, like rewrite this. But what are y'all's thoughts on this if you're reading indie author content?
I mean, I'm pretty, I would say, moderate on the AI position itself. I do have a lot of concerns for the dangers of it and that we've released it without regulating it. And now that we are trying to regulate it, like you're talking about, there's a good side and a bad side because in no way are they going to be able to catch everything, or like you said, they're going to start labeling what actual writers are writing as AI. And it sucks because I'm sure, like with indie authors, first impressions mean everything. So if I come across you and the first thing I see about you is that you're being labeled as an AI writer, you're being accused of it, like I think that'll stick in your brain, even whether it's true or not, or whether you actually take the time to like look into
Sure.
it. Is this true? Like, how do you look into it? Is this true or not? So I
Yeah.
don't know.
Like
We do need more.
Daggermouth, guys, Daggermouth. You remember all that?
I've heard of that one too. Being
There's a
accused of AI.
massive controversy surrounding in Daggermouth, and there was a couple of others where the author they're like, "Did you use AI?" And they're like, "Okay, I used it to edit some of what I wrote," and they're like, "This is an AI book," and no,
No,
AI can copyright.
no.
AI can copy edit something. AI can look through and tell you what you did wrong. AI can give you thoughts and about what you're doing, and it's not AI writing. I think like a straight up LLM generation of a story is pretty bad. But if you've ever read a straight up large language model written story, it's difficult to read. It's not good. There's not like a great narrative there. I don't feel massively threatened by AI writing because if you've read AI writing, it's
pretty
Bad.
bad.
wildly bad. Yeah, it's
Bad.
hard to read. It's really hard to read.
It's just bad.
It's real bad, and so there's no narrative. There's no feeling. Nothing bad happens in AI. It's so content regulated that you're not going to have a lot of gore. You're going to have no spice. It's really against
I mean,
spice.
yeah.
Ooh.
If your whole goal is just to write cozy novels where nothing much is happening other than some like somebody took your parking spot at the grocery store, then sure, by all means. But like I think for me personally, I don't mind if, especially an independent author, has to use AI for art. That's fine. Go for it. I've seen worse. I've seen people use thumbnails off of Google Images. So like, I'm not worried. You know what I mean? I'm not worried about the necessarily, because I mean, if you use AI to do your cover, your book does well. Guess what? Maybe next time you made enough off the first book where you can hire a legitimate artist to get the second cover or whatever. So that's not my issue. My issue is where in the writing, where like you can tell that the author wrote like the majority of the story, but the plot holes, you're like, this was not you. This was not.
Well, and so there's this. I'll tell you that as a writer, I can go through and I can put a story together, and I can leave plot holes and not explain things well enough myself. And in the editing process, whenever you're publishing, even on a free publication, because in my estimation, even if the publication is free, it has to meet a certain quality threshold. And you have to spend a certain amount of time thinking about it and outlining and prepping. Because if you're just trying to puke stuff out there, you're creating a bad brand. And so if you do that and you create a bad brand on the internet and you're not going back through and editing and taking feedback and fixing stuff and rewriting certain things, then it's just bad writing. And that's not AI doing that. Writing isn't something, no one gets it on the first try. Okay.
No. What I mean is where you can see a very clear narrative, and then like
they switch
at
gears
like
and
halfway
got lazy.
halfway through the book you're like, none of this makes sense anymore. We're not even in the same story. What happened?
So my first cultivation series, it was like a lit RPG cultivator series, and I was reading it, and I'm pretty sure halfway through the story they switched to a non-native speaker Asian ghostwriter, and it was wild. Like all the way that you could tell that it wasn't who it was being published by. They got tired of writing it, and people were still reading it on Kindle Unlimited, and they got a non-native speaking Asian ghostwriter and just let him go ham. And I was pretty amazed at the poor quality, but there's no content. And so the most interesting thing about the debate to me is that how we fight AI is with AI. And so if you want to limit AI or you want to limit bad content, you like Amazon for Kindle Unlimited, the number of book submissions that they get, I would not be mad if they used AI to make sure that the book submissions met at least this level of quality. And if it didn't meet this level of quality, then revise and resubmit, guys. You're not putting sentences together. You need to do a little bit better job before you dump this stuff on Kindle Unlimited and compete for attention with the authors that actually tried to do a very good job. But part of this issue is that once you feed an LLM somebody's writing, even for AI or quality, then theoretically it's in the LLM now, and a lot of authors aren't okay with that. I don't care. It doesn't matter. If LLM wants to go to school on me, I'm frankly flattered that they're, oh, well, this guy's good enough to where I want to base my entire model off of how he writes. I don't think that they're doing that to me, but I wouldn't be mad about it. But at the same time, it's a debate. Okay, it's a deep, dark hole that we can go in on that. I just wanted to touch on it. So now let's ruin the night in the Moth for anyone that hops on our podcast. I'm ready to finish this and go to Joe Abercrombie. I'm excited. So this is a romantasy. We unraveled. I got to unravel with everybody else. I still don't know what unraveled actually means. I thought it was like a O-face thing, and like, but it's, I guess it kind of is that, but it's used so liberally and in so many contexts that I'm still not exactly sure what it's supposed to mean. But we unraveled. How did y'all feel about the unraveling? Was it done well compared to other unravelings that you've experienced?
Oh,
I'm gonna listen
Okay,
out.
first
I'm gonna
off,
listen out.
First off, I put forth a motion as a member of this group that anytime henceforth that Aaron needs to talk about that particular subject, he has to use the word unraveled.
Oh, I'm for the rest of forever. You know, I'm gonna yell unraveling out randomly at certain points in my life, and just as an inside joke with myself. But yes, okay, no, like how well did we unravel here, Kana?
you know, I've read a lot about unraveling,
As you should.
and I would say it was like
I can't tell if that's the
7 out
dog
of 10.
panting or you. You know.
That's my dog. You, based on what we're talking about,
I
could go
know.
either
That's
way.
my joke. That's my joke. Okay,
I
so
would be like
7 out of 10.
7 out of 10 on my scale. Of what I've
Only,
experienced.
I feel like it was a single chili pepper of spice though in the
It definitely wasn't Zayden and Violet in the throne room. That's for sure.
I feel like she could have gotten a lot more descriptive with some of the happenings, and I felt like it was tasteful. Overall, I enjoyed the unraveling. It wasn't like any like kind of world-shattering unraveling that could have possibly happened. I don't think I learned anything new about unraveling during the unraveling, but I feel like it unraveled well enough for a first time, and you know.
Okay. But let's look at it. Let's look at the unraveling from this perspective. If you were a young girl who had been sheltered your whole life, knew nothing about the outside world, you wouldn't necessarily have the vocabulary to express the unraveling.
Let me back up because there was apparently quite a bit of unraveling happening at the tour prior to. So these weren't maidens.
But she had never unraveled with someone else.
Oh well,
she
actually,
never unraveled with somebody else. She only unraveled herself.
Okay, but it depends on our definition here. So we're switching definitions. She actually completed her thing, despite her brain having gone to the "am I not going to" thing for a second. Because usually once your mind goes there, you know it's done.
Yeah, you're checked
pressure's
out.
there. You checked out. So he wasn't doing a good enough job to where she never considered the possibility that she wouldn't unravel. But she got there anyway. All I have to say is most first experiences are not quite that good. So she got a good deal in the scheme of things. So
Fair.
So it was. You'll say 7 out of 10, Kana. Do you agree with 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 5 on the chili pepper rating, or do you think 2 out of 5?
Yeah, maybe like approaching 2.
Approaching 2. I mean, there was some.
Like
there was some.
1.5.
There were some
Yeah,
descriptors
1.5.
there, but very tasteful. I overall thought it was well done and tastefully done. Okay, on from that. I know we had to spend a little bit of time, and it
Good stuff.
culminated. The prostrated king. Okay, so it was made a point that part of their culture was that the king had to be humiliated by each of the hamlets, right? That was like part of when you're crowned a new king, you have to go to each hamlet and you have to be humiliated in one way or another. And I'm looking for signs, given the ending, which we're going to get to, but I'm looking for the signs of anger, right? I'm looking for some.
I think he was aggravated each time. Like he either complained before the ceremonies or after the ceremonies in some way. Sometimes it was more loud and whiny or agitated than other ceremonies that he had to participate in some hamlets. But I especially think like when he had to be in the water for an hour.
Did you feel
he really
did you
let
feel
that
rage
show?
though? Did you feel like his character was showing some signs of potentially being a feigned boyish personality, because that's the thing that, okay, I'm going back to Game of Thrones here, and I'm going back to Khaleesi, where it's the best example ever of somebody doing something that feels very out of character, and to the point where the fans or the people experiencing the story question whether or not that was set up enough. And it has to be set up. It has to be developed as a possibility. And I know a plot twist is one thing, but it it can't be a plot reversal where it's like, oh, I'm a really nice guy. Actually, I'm a bad guy. Ha 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 ha.
No, well, not to dampen your point, but have you ever dealt with a narcissist? Because like
Yes,
that's
okay.
pretty textbook.
But
Let's look at the facts here. This dude who's been told he's special his whole life, that he's meant to be king, does, like, in my head, like, he's gonna sneak and connive and play whatever mask he's got to play to get to the point where it got, and then
but
you're
did
like,
he really
oh,
need
fuck.
did he really need to do all that? Did he ever make any attempts at saying or implying that Sybil should be a romantic or specifically
No,
political
that part
alignment?
I didn't see coming.
And so could he have?
That part.
I have a best friend and somebody who raised me that I growing up on. For me to for me to for me to betray them to the point where I try and kill him, right? Like that, I could see him changing. I could see him going power hungry. I can even see him setting himself up as a god to replace the existing gods that were there. That would make sense to me, that he was like, I'm actually power hungry. I got all of you guys to come along with what I wanted to do. We've completed me taking up the mantle, but me taking up the mantle means something different than what you thought it meant. And so that was the turn. But him betraying Maud and Rory, I could see him wanting, but couldn't she just be a priest to go alongside of him? Does it have to be
I don't know, dude.
a wife?
I
A queen?
think
we need
like
more information.
well, once we got to the shock, once we got to the surprise, I looked back at the, several chapters back,
Okay.
and there were little moments along the way that made me like about him. One of those being the secret meeting without Rory there.
Sure.
Red flag. Red flag.
It was
All
a
right?
red flag.
Also,
but was Rory
but
an obstacle?
Hear me out. Hear me out. Did you not watch the prequel to The Lion King, where the firstborn son met a new friend, and then the new friend became more popular and stronger and all these other things, and that resentment? Because here's my thing. Rory's not even supposed to be a knight. He's a foundling. So imagine you're born a prince, right? And then some little orphan boy walks in off the street. He starts getting all of this attention. It might not be good attention at first, but he's still getting attention. And to a narcissist who craves attention, seeing someone else get any amount of attention is a big red flag. Then, on top of that, we've been told so many times throughout the book that Benji's not good at this. That's why Rory's here. Benji's not good at that. That's why Rory's here. And so, like, that made me go, oh shit, he's hated Rory this whole time.
I don't know that he hates Rory, though. And okay, so we're skipping, but let's just skip. This is on the table.
Alana has a good point. Hold on, Alana has a good point. There was something off with him. The red flag was that he was just too green flag.
Meow.
Meow.
See, even the cat's with me on this.
Okay, so let's back up. Let's accept for a second, all right? Because I'm gonna go with you on this. I'm gonna accept that my goal is to use Rory and Maud to control Sybil, which basically was the goal. If I'm going to use Rory and Maud to control Sybil, why do I give Rory the Artful Brigand's coin and tell him to run away right before I run off with Sybil on some promise to marry me and stay loyal? All she has to do is run away. That's a pretty low barrier. I mean, he could keep her under lock and key to oh, well, I don't know. I'm going to get to the expansion of the kingdom in a little bit, or the size of the world, but all she has to do is run away. If it felt like Dr. Evil was like, I'm going to leave you in a room, lowering slowly, inch by inch on a chain, and I've got sharks with laser beams on their head, and eventually you're going to go in there and die somehow, but I'm not going to watch. And then his son comes along. He's like, no, we'll shoot him. You and me, we'll go eat dinner afterwards. We'll go to Chili's, whatever. Let's get this over with and do it right. And this felt like a Dr. Evil moment here, because if I put Maud and Rory, and maybe not Maud, but at least Rory and Bartholomew in a prison cell, and I feed him 3 squares a day, give him some yard time to work out, whatever. I give him a decent life, and then anytime you step out of line politically with what my goals are, I'm going to punish those two. And I'm not punishing you, but I'm keeping the leverage. And so if I let them go, it gives us we can go fight Benji in the next book, but it doesn't feel plausible for someone who's been scheming politically all this time to let go of all of the emotional leverage he has of his religious figurehead that he feels like is going to stand in for the previous religious power structure, which is his goal with Sybil, is she's going to replace Aisling as the religious figurehead, but she has to marry him, and she's like, run away and be saved, Rory. I'll marry the evil prince to save you. But other than I'm going to make him a fugitive, but they didn't want to take over the kingdom. Rory didn't want to take over the kingdom at this point. He wasn't a threat to Benji's, but they just wanted to run away into obscurity, So I'm confused and again, I get it. It's a story. It's a fairy tale. Rory's Humperdinck, right? He's Farquaad, Humperdinck, all that he becomes this handsome prince who's, I wouldn't say Joffrey yet. We haven't seen how evil he actually is. He just jumped into this character role of, I cut a deal and I gave the nobles all this money, which, again, you give all the nobles the money, why do they need you anymore? They already have the money. Why are the nobles still supporting him? He paid them off, I guess. It felt thin from a plot standpoint, in my opinion. But I'll let y'all tell me why I'm wrong.
I can see. I feel like a lot of this is going to depend on how she opens up the world and how she sets up the next antagonist, whether it's Benji or whether it's someone else in the next book. Because we go from taking on the god to what's the step up from that? It can't just be the boy king Benji. And I think you have valid points over Benji. I have trouble reconciling who I think his character to be at this point, because I thought he was just kind of a boyish man with a chip on his shoulder. I originally thought him and Rory were actually really close, just based on the way they were interacting with each other when they went to Coulson Fair.
Sibling
they were
energy.
all having a jolly good time.
But hear me out. Who among us, especially I'm 37, right? So at a point in my life, I had someone in my life who I genuinely thought was my best friend. They had grown up with me, lived with me. And I found out later that I was absolutely 100% betrayed, and this girl was playing in my face the whole time. So I think
but
looking at it from that perspective,
take a sword out and stab you. You know, it's like
might as well have. No.
If I have unrequited love, or we have a romantic rivalry.
No. So you're gonna say that living in someone's house and sleeping with their husband is perfectly like not getting stabbed with a fucking knife? Because I would say it is.
Okay, we're gonna back up.
I would say it is.
We're gonna back up for a second, and we're gonna your personal situation aside, because you're
I'm just saying.
You're putting a lot on it. But if we rank,
I'm just saying.
If we rank the levels,
if you're a grown ass adult and you've never felt like you've been stabbed in the back and had your heart cut out by someone, then yeah, you're probably not gonna understand the fucking shystiness that Benji is pulling off right now.
But stabbing somebody and wishing them death and taking something that they have, okay, like if I take something that you have and it's to my benefit at your detriment, I'm taking something away from you because I want it. Only thing that Rory had that Benji wanted was Sybil, and not for the same reasons. Because the whole time, Rory was rutting on Sybil, and Benji didn't seem to care, right? And
hold on. Did you just say rutting?
I'm from Texas, girl. We have deer here, and so they chase each other around.
That's why I was like, what?
They chase each other into the woods regularly, come certain season of the year. So this was literally happening in the woods with Rory and Sybil. So this was happening the whole time, and Benji wasn't making himself a romantic rival. He didn't have, usually, okay, if Benji would have been like, oh, we're really sad together, we're by ourselves, and like she's thinking, oh, this cute little kid, blah, 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 and he's like trying to kiss her or something, and
I don't
she
think that's
rejects
the point of it at all, though.
But I agree. But these type of things are what does everything's defined by motivations. And so I
think his motivation was to, like, not only did he physically stab Rory and try to kill him, but he now knows at this point Sybil is literally the only thing Rory cares about. So what's going to really give that final blow?
He could have killed him. He had the sword on his throat. He chose not to kill him, and he gave him the artful brigand's coin. Why? Like, why would you do that?
Does Benji think he doesn't need it now because he has the moth?
No, I think the author wanted to give Rory enough power to make a comeback. That's the only explanation here, because there's no logical reason. If I'm willing to stab you, take the only person you love, say that she has to marry me because I'm Prince Humperdinck, and, you know, this is like some finger-tinting evil stuff where there are viable alternatives.
Very quickly, though, I have a question that maybe I didn't get the information. With the Abbey destroyed, right? The fucking spring, right? The fucking well or spring or whatever.
I don't want to get our show.
Sorry. Okay, so the spring that she drowns in was in the Abbey. They destroyed the Abbey, right?
They buried it?
Yeah, they buried it. So did the remnants of the Abbey fall into the spring? Did we plug up the spring? Does anybody know?
It was implied that they destroyed the spring. So I know where you're going.
So hear me out.
And it's a valid
I was going to say. So hear me out. If the spring is destroyed, which is the source of the magic to begin with, if the source of the magic is no longer viable, does that make the tokens viable? Like, do they still work if the magic isn't working?
Back up. The bigger question is we just plugged up the spring. Sybil's turning into a gargoyle. Like, so, you know, that's she's not going to be a great figurehead with wings and a gargoyle face. So I think that's a problem, and I think that the viability of the spring moving forward becomes a question. The blocking was unclear to me. So blocking and writing means how well did they describe the scene and what was going on around them, and could you picture it in your mind? The final confrontation was a little bit difficult for me to picture in my mind, especially
Yeah,
with
100%.
how the how it all came down, and did it plug up or didn't, and there was a hole somehow that the coin opened up that they escaped through. I guess they were inside the cathedral, but they destroyed it, but they were still inside, and they saw. I don't understand exactly what was happening at the end. It was difficult for me to picture in my head, which gets a minus mark for polish. But okay, going back to the spring water and the magic, and I wrote this in our
Very
chat.
quickly, on that point, if she drinks her own blood and does some like vampire action, can she sustain it that way because it's in her blood?
I don't think so, because none of the omens did, and none of the other, post gargoyles did.
The omens were drinking blood, my guy.
They weren't drinking their own blood, and if they
oh well, yeah.
so you have
I was like,
you have the
they were drinking some blood though.
The soul weary weaver, or whatever, the soul sore weaver, she turned into a gargoyle, which was interesting. But I think even more interesting is this
Bartholomew.
well, they're all dead. Like, this is necromancy, and Rory is totally in the center of a necromantic, like, that's some.
Oh god.
We got weird there for a minute, because those are zombies,
no.
and Sybil is a zombie, and
Okay, but she's okay. So she's part zombie, part gargoyle.
not part zombie. She's a zombie. She's dead.
Full zombie.
She came to life again by drinking some rotten spring water, and if she doesn't keep drinking the spring water, she becomes a gargoyle, which is a third transformation. So we went from human to zombie with stone eyes to a gargoyle. She hasn't even reached her final form yet, and but yes, this is necromancy in a sneaky way, and it was not billed to me this way. And I was sitting there as soon as they explained that, and I'm like, she's dead. Like, that girl's dead, and Rory and the dead girl. I bet the only person more surprised than me right now is Rory, because he's like starts parsing that out in his mind, and there are implications in that.
Sir, you have to understand, I'm used to reading about like 6,000-year-old fae meeting a 17-year-old girl, so like that part didn't even register to me until you brought it up. Like, that part, I was like, okay.
I'm not questioning it. Love is love.
Why not?
But also, full disclosure, you've got to...
Hold on. At least she's a sentient zombie. I feel like that makes it a little less weird. If it was just some random corpse, then yeah, I'm gonna DNF that. But at least she's sentient.
And we had a stillborn zombie that actually grew up. That was pretty weird. It was pretty weird. I don't know how to say it.
This is why I'm not invited to my family's Christmas, because I like pointing out that Jesus was a zombie, and that doesn't win me any points.
Oh my god.
I mean, it's resurrection is a complex issue in general. So, and I don't think that being a zombie makes you a bad person necessarily. But I think it could.
For zombies.
I think it could make you a bad person. I'm just saying we have to evaluate all the facts, and that starts by admitting what the situation is. And we had some zombie lovemaking in this book that I was not given forewarning about until
But it was
afterwards.
tasteful.
My cheeks hurt so bad.
Okay, so yes, so let me ask a question here, and this is just another logic jump that we have to make. If I see myself as basically a god, right, and I'm wanting to control a territory, and I have the ability to take corpses, bring them back into life, and turn them into gargoyle soldiers, what do I need the rest of this power structure for? I could just have an army of gargoyles. Why would I feed them to the omens? Why would I break their necks? I could just have another gargoyle. Heck, I can have my gargoyles go get a bunch of corpses, reanimate them to become new gargoyles, and I could take over the world with my gargoyle army.
You know, you bring up some valid points.
You know, but I mean, okay, but we also have to, like, we're not exactly sure, because the only account that we kind of have for the transformation into a gargoyle that we see as a whole, that we kind of like have insider information for, is Bartholomew. And Bartholomew doesn't remember shit and is not very apt at following directions without being a sassy little dude.
Well,
So
but she's
my-
like, I
my
should have killed
question
you
is-
100 years ago, Bartholomew. I have all of
But
these.
that's my point. But that's my point. If you have an army of gargoyles who don't want to listen, what's the point of having an army of gargoyles?
But the large part of the gargoyles do listen. And it's like anything else. If you told the U.S. Army, okay, I am going to give you a person that has no memory of who they were before, but they're going to be made out of stone and they can fly. Can you work with that resource? Can you set up a system to train them to do what you want them to do and make them feel like they're doing right? And then we're going to take over the world against all the evil people that trying to ruin our religion and stuff. Yes, I think that we could make some use out of that would make our 5 itty-bitty cities that are supposed to be... Okay, let's go to the world.
But sir,
context.
you just described every basic training to, like, ever.
Yeah. If you've been in the military, that's what we try and do. We try and remove
You
their
just-
sense of self-determination and train them to do whatever you tell me to do, drill sergeant. And so, you know,
Exactly.
that's
Just explained every military sect to ever exist, ever.
yeah, and except they're made out of stone and they're pretty good at violence. So, going back to what I was saying, if I were trying to maintain control over the world in the same way that Aisling was, there were better options, okay? And she could have been the main character or the main villain easily, and just with, you know, a half dozen or a dozen gargoyles, she almost took out the main form of mantle taking up resistance that's ever occurred in front of her. So I'm just saying she was a bad villain and not very smart, or we had an idea of how this story should work and we're just going to lean on the fact that the audience is going to, let's just go with it because it's a very fairy tale vibe, right?
Well, I think what's so genius about how that played out, though, is we spent so much time focusing on her as the villain that we did not notice some of the shit that Benji was doing off on the
villain.
side.
She was the villain, and she was
They-
stage
both
one
things
villain.
can be true.
Going back to
Both
what I
things
said,
can be true.
this is not technically a cliffhanger book. And
Both things can be true.
I'm with you, but I want to establish that whenever, like, I guess from a query standpoint, or when we're describing the book or categorizing it, a cliffhanger is where the main plot is not resolved. So you have a story promise that gets made through the book. In this book, our story promise was that we were going to kill the omens and we were going to take down Aisling. That was the main story promise. That was the goal from the very beginning. And so we completed the story promise goal, and then we're trying to expand the world in the second book. So it gave us a new apparent antagonist, but it did resolve the initial story question from the book and answered a lot of the questions. So I will say this is a series. and there's a clear engine for the next book in the series, but it is not a cliffhanger in the true sense. Where we walked up and we were fighting with the Iceling, with the Moth, with the lady, the abbess, and then she raised her hammer at the last minute, and then the story cuts. And that's
Okay. So semantics, if you want to call it a twist versus a cliffhanger, fine with me. I'm just saying, I think it again, and what I love about having a discussion with you guys is that it does challenge me to look at different perspectives, but I'm standing by 10 toes down on the fact that I think it, in my opinion, it did leave me questioning, okay, well, what else didn't I notice about Benji the first time? What didn't
Sure.
I notice that was
Definitely.
happening that got us here? And to me, that's almost as good as a cliffhanger, because now I need to know how we got here.
Sure.
I need to know everything about, like, I genuinely hope we get some Benji POV chapters in the next book, because I want to see how his brain works.
Well, I think that we'll at least get some Rory POV chapters, and the scope should be expanded. So let's talk about the scope of the story briefly. We don't have a ton of time left, but let's talk about the scope of the story briefly. If you remember, for our first 9 chapters or whatever we read, 8, I said that when we're sitting inside of the tour and we're thinking about the world outside the tour, I said that the world felt very big, right? It felt like there was so much depth and stuff to the world. But now I feel like I was a fish and I was stuck in a bowl looking out at a reef. And I looked at the reef, and the reef looked majestic and wild and big. And then I was let out of the bowl, and when I did it, I realized I was just in another fish tank, and I could do one circle around it, and that's about it. Because we have 5 cities. We don't have any political structure described outside of the hamlets that are part of the nation that had previously been under the rule of the Tor and the Omens. And I don't have any sense that the world is bigger than the 5 cities at this point. And once we got outside of the Tor, it felt a lot smaller than it felt like whenever we started the story. Do y'all agree?
Oh
or
yeah,
disagree?
Yeah.
I'm gonna agree with you there 100%.
It was very fast paced, and like each spot we visited, we didn't get to meet that many people, or I mean, it was so fast. They were only there to get the token, and they were gone. Yeah,
Yeah.
I did miss the political structure, plot lines of the story, which I hope will be in book 2.
So, have y'all ever played a Zelda game?
All of them.
Okay, so generally the Zelda game is we go to this city, we collect our thing, we go to this city, we collect our thing, then we get the third thing, then we get a new sword, right? And it's very episodic in how the levels are structured to get to the story expansion. And I felt like this book was very episodic in its approach to expanding the story. I feel also like one of the biggest questions and most interesting elements of the world that she built was never leveraged at all in her story, and that's the sprites. And so I really thought that the way the world was going to expand at the end of this book, and I think it would have been if she would have submitted this book to me and asked my advice, which she didn't and won't. But had she done that, I would have probably seen this book getting bigger by having our main cast of characters kill the abbess, and then she was holding back some sort of apocalyptic event involving the sprites, and that be how we expand the world. And I feel like it would have been a better ending and a better story. Now she's got a plan for the next book, and I have no clue what it's going to look like. Absolutely no. We're starting with a Humperdinck situation where she's kidnapped and asking or wondering word about the her true love, Wesley. So we have this situation where that's how the next book's starting, is feeling like very Princess Bride from a plot standpoint. And I feel like the sprites were the more interesting portion of that than the political element and how she set it up.
Yeah, I'm not gonna disagree with you at all. Like my one big critique at the end of this book was some of it felt, or a majority of it felt so rushed that by the time I did get to the end, even though I enjoyed the book immensely, it felt a little bit YA-ish to me versus like being a fantasy novel for adults.
And I read the first 8 chapters, and based on that, I dove headfirst into the pool, and I hit my head a foot under the water, is what I felt like I did with this book. Where it looked so deep, and it looked so interesting in chapters 1, in the first 100 pages, that once I got in and read it, I think my expectations hurt the rest of the book for me, because it looked really good at page 100 to me. Really, really good. And I don't think it delivered on the promise of how good the story could have been. I would have given her, since she's an established, already published author, I would have given her another 100 pages to develop this story better than what she did. And I was interested enough to read those pages. But, okay, so this is a problem that I had with some of my writing. My story is based on Dante's Hells, right? So the question became, how many levels of Dante's Hells can you get through without not spending enough time on each? And in our reading of Catabasis, that was demonstrated that it's very difficult to get through 7 different worlds or environments in one book and give any manner of depth to any of them. You just can't do it. So you have to plan a larger book series and only cover the part of the book that you can explain well and make feel unique and compelling. And I feel like covering 5 cities in this book, which is what we did, made us feel much less depth in each city.
Yeah, no, 100%.
True.
100%. Did anybody read the physical copy? Because I read it on Kindle, and I don't know if the page count is the same. How many pages was it?
It's similar. This is like a 320 page book, I think.
Yeah, see,
Yeah,
it needed to be like at least 450, 500, maybe even pushing like 550 for everything that I needed to truly be in the book.
Epic fantasy usually caps out at 120,000 words for an epic fantasy book 1, right? Once you get to book 2, book 3, book 4, then generally you're allowed longer than 120,000 word count, but 110 to 120,000 words is about what you're allowed for book 1. And that's about 470 pages. 450 to 470 pages. I feel like she's already a published author. This isn't a pure debut. I think she could have gotten her publisher to give her 450 pages easily.
Agreed.
That's just
agreed.
Okay.
Especially with the success that she had with her first duology.
It was so good. I feel disappointed after reading. Well, not disappointed because I did really like this book, but I felt like One Dark Window is perfect in every way.
Yes.
And I had those same expectations going into this one, and I liked it, but it also didn't really meet those.
Through page 100, it felt so good. Like you saw me, I was drooling over this book at page 100. And I think that high of expectations, and I still loved how she wrote. Her writing's beautiful, and so I star rating overall in evaluation. Go
4 stars for me.
4 out of 5.
4.
4 out of 5. How about you, Aaron?
I'm going with a 2.5 or a 3 for Aaron.
3.
Ah!
3.
For your
I'm
first
at
romantasy,
3.
not bad.
I'm at 3.
Not bad.
Look, the reason why I rate this 3 stars is I don't feel like she thought through some of the plot points and the feasibility of the plot points. I feel like the writing is a 9 out of 10 in just her prose.
Yeah,
and
she is a good writer.
The clarity in
Yeah.
her writing. The only blocking issue I had in the whole book where I couldn't picture what was going on in my head, I guess I felt that in several different areas of this book where the blocking was a little bit unclear. But the only reason it was unclear is because she spent 1 chapter on stuff she could have spent 2 or 3 chapters on. And if she was trying to compress as much as she did, there was no way in the word count that she had to cover the story that she had envisioned. And I also think that there's some developmental and structural issues in this book that she should have addressed. And given her talent level, I guess it was the success she had in her first books probably gave her some publishing deadlines that she was trying to meet, and she needed another 6 months with this manuscript, and I don't think they gave it to her, is what I essentially think. She needed another 6 months with this manuscript. So I enjoyed the romance. I enjoyed the emotional side of it. She did that better than anything else. I did. Just because I like fantasy, I love the emotional element of it. But one of the things that I said at the beginning of the book is that I have to believe the reason for a breakup for me to enjoy a non-HEA, which I don't like HEA in general, but if there's not going to be a happy ending, I have to believe the reason why. And it has to make sense. And I look back at it and I say, it was always supposed to be that way. My biggest pick right now is that the reason why Rory and Sybil are apart does not feel rooted in deep enough logic for me to be at peace with it.
I don't know. I agree with you, but I'm still going to hang on to my belief, which is that Benji just took Sybil to rub it in Rory's face.
I believe
We're gonna find out soon.
Yeah, we're gonna have. But okay,
September.
Benji's character could. Anyway, I would like to see more development from his character, so I understood him. I feel like some of the lack of depth was directly because Benji wasn't. She didn't have enough time to develop that. It's like trying to do the last season of Game of Thrones in 6 episodes instead of 10.
Don't even bring it up, bro. Don't.
It's a sore topic.
I'm still mad.
I will be mad anytime with you.
Okay,
I'm still mad.
We're doing Devils for next week, which I'm excited because y'all promised. I'm very excited about Joe Abercrombie. I'm very excited about this book. I hope I walk away with a rating. What did I give Calabasas? Was it 2 stars? I think I gave that 2 stars.
Hopefully it was less than this book.
It was. I enjoyed it.
It was.
After reading this, I think I gave it 2 stars, and that might have been generous. But I'm gonna stick with.
Yeah,
the
you did. Because I distinctly remember you saying, I'm only bumping this up by 1 star because the ending wasn't as terrible as the rest of the book.
That is what you said.
That sounds kind of mean. And I say this knowing that these are extremely talented authors who did a great job writing a book, and it's hard to write.
Things can be true.
It's hard to write.
They got you to feel something.
Yep.
Confusion. But still, the that's
Yeah.
it. I will get in the group chat after I do a little bit of analysis on Devils to see how many chapters it takes us to get to the first 100 words, and that'll be the target for week 1. So I'll let y'all know what that is. But thank you,
Aye,
Kate.
aye,
Thank you,
Captain.
Angela. This was fun.
Thank you.
I'm sad that I'm sad that we didn't get our other two for this week. I would have really liked to have heard. We didn't get a lot from Dylan at all.
No,
and
I don't know if you guys saw the message. He
Yeah, I
got
did.
stuck in traffic.
Ew.
And Chrissy's been with us throughout this book, so I wanted to stick the landing and see how she was on this book or what her thoughts were. So anyway, we'll move on from there. It was fun tonight, and we'll see you guys next week.